Hey friends, before we get into this conversation, I've got two geological things that I'd like to share with you. First, we've recently launched our from the ground up redesigned website. If you've not yet seen it, give it a browse. What you'll find is not just a new look, but an actual library of conversations curated and presented so you can more easily find the topics you're interested in knowing more about. Secondly, if you're a regular listener, you'll know that I've found Sa'am acupuncture to be a valuable part of my clinical kit. We have a great course coming up in October with Andreas Bruch. He's been traveling regularly to Korea for the past 20 years to study with modern doctors who are steeped in the Sa'am method. He'll be presenting an 8-hour class over the course of 2 Saturdays, and it comes with NCCAO MPDAs. Join us for Jumpstart Sa'am and learn how to bridge your TCM and Zangfu skills with the unique organ pairings and perspective of Sa'am. Visit the education page on the Geological website for the details, and from now until midnight of October the 1st, you can save 10% by using the code JUMPSTART, all one word. The new Geological is your portal into the diversity of voices for the hopelessly curious. Join us.
But we have to use them well, because a lot of times the evidence come out, people just read it and forgot about that. And many acupuncturists don't know even it exists. I think that's a little sad, and I think we should spread words and the people should look into this. These are very powerful. This evidence, like a published journal papers about acupuncture, these are very powerful tool.
I'm Michael Max, and this is Geological, the podcast that curates East Asian medicine and methods through the power of conversation. I got an email the other day from a listener asking about TCM and the world of acupuncture. I get these on occasion from folks who have found their way to the podcast because they have a budding interest in acupuncture. They listen to the conversations here, they spend some time involving themselves with various other social media. In essence, they give a listen to the profession because they are drawn and considering learning the trade, which of course is no small step. It's an investment of time, money, and your irreplaceable life force. In terms of the profession, they have heard everything from "this has been a worthwhile and rewarding way to spend my life" to "it's a scam by schools and accrediting entities to separate people from their not yet hard-earned future income via a corrupt student loan program." They've heard everything from that acupuncture is a beautiful medicine that can bring seemingly miraculous change, as well as that TCM, it's a bullshit communist fabrication. From time to time, I end up with emails asking my opinion. So for today's editorial, I want to speak to the issue of whether TCM is worthwhile and whether or not acupuncture might be a path worth pursuing. I'm doing this in part because I get asked about this often enough that I thought it might be a good idea to record my thoughts on this so I can point people to this episode instead of having to write emails. And in part, to clarify my own thinking on these issues. I'm going to take a swing at the knuckleball of, is a career in acupuncture worth it? And what is the value of this TCM stuff? Quick warning, this is going to be a little bit longer than the usual editorial. I'll start with a few caveats and disclaimers first. Look, I'm not a historian, nor a sinologist, and I'm not any kind of academic authority, nor have I worked in the East Asian medicine educational system as a teacher, administrator, or supervisor at any of the schools. What I'm informed by is my 25 plus years of clinical practice, some time in Taiwan and China studying language and doing what I could to add to the training that I got in the early days of what used to be called the Seattle Institute of Oriental Medicine. Yes, the very name requires that you time travel to a moment when Oriental was considered descriptive, not pejorative. I started in a time when the idea of a job doing acupuncture after graduating was patently ridiculous because there were no jobs. You were clearly on your own for building a practice. All this is to say, I have been shaped by a different time and influences than people who are starting a journey of learning and practicing acupuncture today. Here's what I found. TCM, as best I understand it, was a response in the 1950s to the dire situation in China after years of civil war, occupation by the Japanese, and then the influence of communism. TCM was an attempt to take a medicine that had been struggling in the Republican era and somehow harvest the best practices as the nation's healthcare system was in tatters, as was the country for that matter. There were actually some brilliant practitioners who were tapped to help create the system. People like Qin Bo-Wei. You can find a book about him and his work from Eastland Press. It's called Qin Bo-Wei's 56 Treatment Methods. It's written by Wu Bo-ping and Jason Blalack. And there's Volker Scheid's Chinese Medicine in Contemporary China. He brings the perspective of an anthropologist, historian, and practitioner to the inquiry of traditional medicine in modern China. The impulse to marry together Eastern and Western medicine in China, it came from multiple streams of influence and the ever-quirky turns of history. Eric Karshmer does a fine job detailing this in his engaging and insightful book, Prescriptions for Virtuosity. We also have an episode with Eric. It's number 333. If you're curious about TCM and Zhongxi Jiehe, East and West medicine mixed together, I recommend giving it a listen. I found that what Eric details about the mixing of medicines in China is quite relevant to the times that we're living in, as integrative medicine and so-called evidence-based practices are the clarion call of our particular time. In short, TCM seems to have been a response to troubled times, and so schools were founded, textbooks were written. Then, in the 1970s, some Westerners wandered their way into China, got enamored with acupuncture, learned how to do it, read the books, and then translated them and used this material as a foundation for teaching others in the West. Fast forward a bit, as the curiosity of the early, I'm going to say, those mostly countercultural hippies, dreamers, weirdos, and nonconformists who began to learn and practice acupuncture, they began to push toward finding a way to practice within conventional society. The organic process of developing a profession, along with all the structures that go with that, gave rise to schools, accreditation bodies, and a kind of standardized testing. Because, hey, that's how it works here in the West. You need a license to practice medicine. I don't know anyone who would want to see a medical practitioner who didn't have some kind of credentialing to show that they've achieved a modicum of knowledge, skill, and capacity. So, what was considered the worldwide standard for acupuncture knowledge, it was the textbooks from the major schools in China. As with all standardized testing, schools, for the most part, teach to the test. This is because they want their students to pass. And students, by and large, want to know what is expected of them so that they know what to study and put their attention on. In this way, TCM, it became the dragon gate that we in the West walk through to get a degree and a license. Here's what I've discovered about TCM. It will give you the basic language of East Asian medicine that will allow you to speak with and learn from practitioners who are all over the world. It will give you an introduction to the homeostatic dance of the 5 phases. It will give you a map of the channels and some ways of thinking about how to engage acupuncture points. The study of TCM will give you the building blocks of how to think about and work with herbs. And you'll also learn something about differential diagnosis and how to reason within the circular thinking of the ancient medicine that has its roots in China. In short, you'll get some fundamentals that will get you started. I would not say TCM is wrong. I would say it's incomplete. And it's not fair to call it out and focus only on its deficiencies when the medicine itself is ever-changing and adapting. Just Look at the diversity of thought and practice as it's been expressed over the centuries. TCM is a part of the current of medicine that has been described by the classics. And while it's easy to hold up the ancients as knowing more than we did, let's remember they were people with feet of clay just like you and me. We have a long, long written history of people trying to work out just what is this thing we call traditional East Asian medicine. And I guarantee you that 50 years from now, there'll be a new name for it, along with opinions and complaints about what came before. A glance at any of the commentaries over time about the practice of medicine will reveal that, like Jews arguing over the Torah, practitioners of whatever we're calling our medicine this week have been arguing over the theory and practice of using needles and herbs to help people for a long, long time. I can tell you this, the school that I went to, while it taught a variety of methods and perspectives, because they thought that you should have a full toolkit to be able to help people. It also taught us TCM as a foundation, because TCM, after all, was going to be on the test. So you needed to know it. Plus, as I already said, it gives you access to the putonghua, the common language that all practitioners will be familiar with. And it's not because TCM is correct, but because it's a kind of primer. It speaks to the common ground and basics that most acupuncturists and herbalists in the modern world share. Is there more to East Asian medicine than TCM? The answer is obviously yes. Look, you'll be a student of this stuff for your whole life should you put your feet on this path. There are family traditions. There are new modern innovations. Just like the people of China absorbed influences from India and the Middle East, so too, modern practitioners glean from osteopathy, biochemistry, the use of electricity, and any other medicine or method that might give them an edge in helping people. But again, this is exactly how medicine evolves over time, so fair enough. I think the question is not so much, is TCM bullshit, as it is, do I have what it takes to bend my mind around a set of principles and practices that is very foreign to the Western mind? And do I have the capacity to continually update my understanding? Am I willing to do what I can, knowing that my knowledge, it's incomplete and ever evolving? It might sound poetic and beautiful to think of embarking on a path of lifelong learning. But remember too, that means uncertainty, confusion, and anxiety are also your constant traveling companions. It's not necessarily a bad thing. It's just part of the landscape when you're continually remapping terrain that you thought you understood. Is there more to the practice than the basics? Obviously so. Are there things that you won't learn in school? I hope that would be the case. Is this a path that you'll find worthwhile? Well, any worthwhile path is going to fill you with both trepidation and excitement. You'll certainly weigh the very real possibility of failure with the delight of finding that you're more capable than you thought you were. And that's not just learning East Asian medicine. That's any path that takes years before you've developed a dependable sense of competence and skill. If you're thinking of learning acupuncture, I have a couple of recommendations for you. First, find some practitioners who are thriving in their practices and talk to them. Ask them about the ups and downs of practice, what they think is important in an education, what they enjoy about their work, and what drives them crazy. Ask them if they own their own home, what year car they drive, how much time they take away from the practice for vacation. Be nosy. All the doubts and all the dreams that you have around what it might be like to practice acupuncture, ask them those questions. Second, get some treatments at the schools that you're considering attending. See what it feels like to be on the patient side. And lastly, because there are jobs for acupuncturists these days, if you're thinking of getting a job doing this work, then go and informationally interview some of the owners or managers of the kind of clinic that you might want to work in. Ask them what they're looking for in an employee. Then think about if you're that kind of person. And likewise, if a private clinic is your dream, then go talk to people who are running their own show. In short, get a taste of what the trade is like before you commit years and tens of thousands of dollars. Do some due diligence in the beginning that will save you expensive regret down the road. For sure, it's a changing landscape. 50 years ago, there was no acupuncture profession. 25 years ago, there was a flourishing of schools and a coherent licensing process. Today, we face the challenges of other professions co-opting and rebranding some of the traditional methods and calling it their own. There is the issue with more and more schools closing than opening. Increasingly, insurance companies do cover acupuncture, but that can bring its own troubles as well. For sure, there are difficulties to face. That is true at pretty much any moment in time. It's just that the troubles of today are different from those of the past. Challenge is not a reason to shy away, but it does behoove you to go into this with as much understanding of yourself and the state of the profession as you can. And realize that what you learn in school is a small percent of what you'll need to know to practice effectively, which isn't to say that you will not be able to help people fresh out of school. You should have some capacity for that. It's that it takes time to season yourself into the practice. The Chinese say, 活到老, 学到老, be learning your whole life through. Indeed, when you practice East Asian medicine, you're in for a life of learning something new on a regular basis. And you know what? It's not a bad way to go through the day. The Tao Te Ching reminds us that the world is ever changing. While we practice a traditional medicine, it's important to remember that a lot has changed since Huang Di and Qi Bo sat down for a conversation. Once a month in our history series, we trace some of the many potent touch points that has allowed acupuncture to become a commonly used medicine over the past 50 years here in the West. Wei Dong Lu traveled his own curious path with acupuncture. He grew up in China in a family of doctors. His father learned medicine from Republican-era doctors before the advent of TCM. He experienced the turmoil of the Cultural Revolution, which, oddly enough, had him studying acupuncture in high school. After the Tiananmen Square events of 1989, he found his way to Nebraska and eventually to the New England School of Acupuncture. Now, he's a professor at Harvard and works at the Dana-Farber Cancer Institute. What has he discovered along the way? Well, listen in and find out. These conversations come to you through the generous support of our sponsors and members. You have clinical challenges, our sponsors have solutions. The cold and flu season is about to begin. Stock up with formulas to keep everybody healthy from Blue Poppy. Mayway focuses this month on brain function and cognitive health. Do you like working with palpatory diagnosis and have a taste for how the classics describe acupuncture? Slade Burris has a foundations class in neoclassical acupuncture coming up this month. Would you rather spend your time talking to patients instead of writing clinic notes? Later in the show, we'll tell you about how Jane's AI scribe can do the writing for you. And with AcuFast needles, it's possible to have one needle heal twice because it heals your patient and the planet. Do be sure to visit the sponsors page on the Qiological website to take advantage of all the special offers our terrific sponsors have for listeners of the podcast. Running a smooth clinic starts with having the right support, and that's where Blue Poppy comes in. With cold and flu season right around the corner, now is the perfect time to stock up on their original Cold Quell. This September Enjoy 15% off their entire Originals line, including formulas for allergies, hypertension, acid reflux, and more. Even better, Blue Poppy offers free shipping on all orders over $50, no restrictions within the continental U.S. For nearly 40 years, Blue Poppy has supported licensed acupuncturists with premium quality products and a steady commitment to exceptional service. Visit bluepoppy.com today and see why so many practitioners trust Blue Poppy. Be sure to subscribe to their mailing list for exclusive offers and updates.
Hi folks, I'm Yvonne Lau, president of Wei Herbs. September is a time for sharpening the mind, and this month at Wei, we're focusing on cognitive health and supporting brain function through Chinese medicine. In our newsletter and podcast, we'll explore herbal approaches to maintaining cognition in aging patients, traditional Chinese medicine strategies for cognitive decline, and insights from practitioners on children's health and the future of TCM education. Since 1969, Wei Herbs has been a trusted source for high-quality herbal products. Our Plum Flower brand line includes pills, tablets, extract granules, and organic herbs, and along with educational resources, articles, and videos, we're here to help you provide the very best patient care. Visit us at mayway.com to explore more. Thanks as always for your support. And here's to cultivating clarity and resilience with the wisdom of real Chinese medicine.
Hi, I'm Kylie Roger, and I practice neoclassical acupuncture, a palpatory style which gives you instant feedback. This style has made me more present, more precise, and it's elevated my clinical results, and I'm not alone in this. Here's what other practitioners have to say.
The neoclassical skills that I learned have really streamlined the way that I make my diagnoses, which result in a faster treatment. The patients like it, they like the results, and I'd recommend it for anyone that wants to add another skill set to their toolbox.
Practicing neoclassical acupuncture has been a life-changing experience for myself and my practice. I've seen remarkable results in my patients and gained greater confidence as a practitioner. I highly recommend.
Neoclassical acupuncture has completely changed my practice, and I love the amazing and lasting results that I see with the medicine.
Start your journey with neoclassical acupuncture with the Foundations course this September. Visit neoclassicalacupuncture.com and transform your practice.
Wei Dong Lu, welcome to Geological.
Thank you, Michael. Glad to be here.
I am really happy to have you here. We're here for a little history series conversation. We're going to talk about the history of Chinese medicine and some of your part in all that. And when we do these history series conversations, I'm always curious to know about people and like what was going on in your life and what was going on in the world around you when you first started hearing about acupuncture. And like, why did you even think that might be a helpful thing to explore and go into? When you first heard about acupuncture, what was going on in your life? And what was going on, well, I guess in China, because that's where you grew up.
Yes, yeah. Well, I grew up in China. I was born in China. I'm 100% Chinese. And so the interesting is that I grew up in the family actually is from a Chinese medicine. And actually, I'm the third generation of the traditional Chinese medicine.
So you never didn't hear about acupuncture. It was always in your life.
Yes, absolutely. It's just part of my life. I grew up there. And so I didn't pay much attention to it. And it's very natural to me. You know, the thing is, it had to start with my grandfather. And he discovered his career actually at I think he's 36. And he started learning Chinese medicine. He was not learned from the very beginning and early on. He was a farmer. Then I think around 36 years old, he decided to change his career. That was very interesting. You know, he was born in the 1889 in China, the same year of the Chairman Mao was born.
So he was born during the Qing Dynasty, a whole different period of history.
Absolutely. That was the end of a Qing dynasty. And,
Yes.
I've been digging into his life for a while, and I find it's fascinating at that time.
Well, just to go from a farmer at the age of 36 and decide I'm going to learn medicine, That's amazing.
It's amazing. Yeah, exactly. That we are actually all feel grateful that he actually decided to went into Chinese medicine. It completely changed our family's life because, for many years, our family was just a farmer. Well, well-off farmer. We live in the outside of Shanghai, in the suburban rural area outside of Shanghai was, with all these watery ways and
The water country.
yes, water country.
Beautiful.
Well, there's a lot of insects, a lot of infections.
Oh, of course. Waterborne diseases.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. You can imagine even, I think, the antibiotics was not available.
So what part outside of Shanghai was this?
It is a part of Shanghai called Qingpu.
Qingpu.
Yeah, Qingpu. But that was the older part that was actually part of the Jiangsu province. And now they changed, and this officially is part of the Shanghai, the great metropolitan area. But at that time, in Qing Dynasty, that would belong to Jiangsu province. It's called Songjiang.
Songjiang.
Yeah, Songjiang. It's that was interesting. That region has a lot of intellectuals, and a lot of people reading very into literature and studies, and so there's many. In ancient China, there was the exams that you can get become official, right? You have to test.
That would be a great job if you could get it.
Exactly, it's very hard. But that area, people really into this, into intellectual discussion and literature. So it's very well known with a lot of the famous thinkers has been born there, and since many years, it's a very rich history. So what happened to him is, but my family was not that, and my grandfather was educated in some way, but they never went to official college, or even there was no college available to them. But they can read and they can write very well. They read all these classical Chinese, of course. So his father had a disease, had the infection on his back with, as I said, that water area, water country. It's a lot of insects, a lot of bird, the toxins around the environment.
Yes. Damp heat.
Exactly. Damp heat, and on his back. And it's very bad infection, and he almost died. They went to see the local doctors, Chinese doctor, and actually that, near the Shanghai, so they did see some Western doctors at that time. Didn't work. Did not work, and he's very suffering, big wound on his back, woozy, you can imagine that. So, and then they suddenly hear there's one doctor called Dr. Ling that in this near Shanghai area, and is very good on the specialized in the wound healing. He's like a sort of a today's like a surgeon for the infectious disease. That's a specialty.
He was a specialist.
Yeah, specialist. So my grandfather took his father, my great-grandfather, went to see him. And so for some reason, he applied some Chinese herbs on his back, and he got cured. So that left its deep impression on my grandfather. And he said, okay, I needed to study with this master.
Wow. Okay. So is that what happened? He then went and studied with Dr. Lin?
Yeah, and he went to his clinic, and at that time, he already married. He had a kid.
Yeah, he's 36 years old.
Yeah, you can imagine he has a whole family there. But he decides, I got to do it. So my father told me he actually used a boat. At that time, the communication all through the vehicle. There's no cars. The boats, that is the transportation. So he carried a boat of the rice as a tuition for his teachers. So went to his place, and he accepted him as one of the oldest students. So he studied with him, and in more than 3 years, and then he graduated. He gave him a plaque, big plaque, and then with his name on it, and called the Lu Helin Waike. Waike is
okay.
Yeah, so
external diseases doctor.
Yeah, Lu Helin Waike. And Lu Helin, that's my grandfather's name. And Waike, internal medicine, we all into the internal medicine, right? And the study Chinese herbs. But my grandfather's specialty is external. So it's
Yeah,
a, it's, a, it's a
I mean,
wound.
that's like saying surgeon.
Yeah, surgeon. Yeah, it's wound healing. And he
Mhm.
actually this type of a TCM, or there was no TCM, and the Chinese medicine surgeon. That's his specialty.
And this is before antibiotics. So Western medicine doesn't really have the same treatment modalities
No.
back then that it has today.
Yes.
So your grandfather, was he actually doing like lancing and like small surgeries, or was it primarily herbal medicine?
He do some small surgeries. He does.
Mhm.
He actually has one of the. My father told me that one of his special tool actually is a knife, and he uses all the time and to cut wound open. And yeah, he does a lot of herbal medicine, and internally and externally, as you imagine.
Mm-hmm.
My father even remember when he was young that they actually had to prepare some external use, the gao yao, right?
Mm-hmm.
And at the home at night, they had to be hiding in the middle of the night. They get up to prepare them at my house,
Yeah, of course. Now, your father was a little boy while this was
Yeah.
going on.
Yes, he was a boy. Yeah. So the interesting, my grandfather and studied his business. When he finished the treatment, he started. The war happened. The Japanese invade in 1930s, and the invasion China, and that area was war zone.
Yes.
And
Terrible.
very unstable. This bombing, all the going on bombing, and his village got bombed, and he had to move around to different places. He claimed he had moved several times. Finally, they moved this place, a small water town, and called Liantang, which is, they have 1,000 years of history. It's a very ancient, small, outside of Shanghai. Next time you can visit there, it's a very pretty, and actually is not very commercialized even today, and it's very quiet. But at that time, there was no roads. Everything is water.
Everything's what, it reminds me a little bit. I think I've seen some pictures of like the Menghe doctors. Very similar thing, waterways, people would come up in their boats because that's how they got around.
Exactly. So the people coming, the farmers, morning, they carry the boats into the town center. They sell their goods, rice, whatever the thing they have, and they go to the tea house, and they have a tea, breakfast, and have fun there. And then afternoon, they go home. So that's the environment that he was in. He started his practice at that time. And he became very successful. He actually worked with, have a couple of colleagues at that time in the village. Some, especially in internal medicine. He's, the surgeon for the wound healing, infectious disease per se, you can say today's.
I'm sure he was in high demand.
Exactly.
I mean, when you don't have antibiotics.
Yes. Later on that I think antibiotics become available, but it's very expensive. The penicillin, that 1930 in China, that's become available. But he's primarily still using the herbal medicine, and internally and externally. He still has many like formulas available in the family. So he was very successful. It turns out that when he's very successful, that town was, as today you go there, is very, very quiet. But at that time during the war, because it's isolated, isolated from the war zone. So many people they used to live outside of Shanghai and all over the world, they all came back here to avoid the war.
Kind of like a refugee zone.
Exactly. Yeah. So it's very interesting. People get together. This Kuomintang, people, this, nationalism government, this Japanese spy.
You've got all kinds of people.
All kinds of people.
Because you've got a war, you've got people displaced.
Yes.
This is a somewhat safe place.
Exactly.
And so you've got a whole mix of folks.
Yeah, a lot of teachers come home because their schools and outside, they all get destroyed. So this town suddenly become very populated. And, obviously, his business getting, very, 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 very well. And there's a lot of high demand. And he met a lot of people, different kind of people. Speak of that, that town actually has sort of become a focal point because the Japanese soldiers could not come in there because it's really difficult for them to access. They have to know the waterway to get into it. So it's kind of hiding inside.
Yeah, there's not really roads.
Yeah.
You got to go by boat,
Yes.
and you got to know the way.
Yes.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, so that kind of environment that he was in.
Okay.
And then, because he is so successful, and his teacher, Dr. Lin, get mad for some reason, which, yeah, so that's actually was very interesting.
超过他的老师.
Exactly.
Oh.
So
You know, it's interesting. Some teachers are delighted when you get better than they do. And some teachers, it's like, you're getting better than me? Like, you're getting a little big for your britches. Who are you?
Exactly. And also, I think his
Oh.
teacher is getting a little older. Maybe I don't know, but I think maybe psychologically he was cognitively maybe decline
Yeah.
so he kind of not happy about my grandfather's
Yeah, there was
success.
a falling out between the two.
Yes.
Did they ever reconcile that, or it just they had a falling out? That was
They
it.
had falling out, and he kind of spread word, say, okay, and he's successful because he's stolen my secret formulas.
Oh.
So
Okay.
yeah, so
Yeah.
my grandfather said what I can do, about him. But he's still very nice. Actually, soon after Dr. Lin died, and he died, and his wife's still alive. And of course, when he passed away, his business gone. He had a son. Oh, that's another story. The Dr. Lin had a son. He wasn't want him to study with him, but his son was young, and he said, I'm going out. I'm going to different places. And
Yeah, I'm not interested in that Chinese medicine stuff.
No. And the
I'm
son
going to be a stockbroker.
yeah, no, not stockbroker at that time, but he actually joined Kuomintang National Party and the army,
Okay.
during the war. I want to fight Japanese. And so
Mhm.
he left.
Join the military.
Yeah, joined the military. And so my grandfather actually provides some food and money in Dr. Lin's wife, shimu, like
Yeah.
in Chinese medicine called a shimu,
Yeah.
the teacher's wife,
Grandfather was a Tendan.
Yeah. And the interesting, and then after 1950, around 1949, 50, China, goes through changes, the Kuomintang's ruling government, and then the communist army is coming in. And his son, Dr. Lin's son, came home because he
Mhm.
was joined the Kuomintang's army.
Okay, that would put him in a lot of trouble then.
Exactly. So he kind of left the army, came back to hometown, and then he found my grandfather because his father already passed away. And he came to my grandfather and essentially asked my grandfather to teach him about his father's the legacy.
Oh, wow. So he came back around and he learned about his father's medicine
Exactly.
through your grandfather.
Exactly. Yeah. So he actually become my grandfather's student. And he's a very smart person. He started practicing right away, and after a few years, and he's actually a scholar because I think he's educating somewhere during the army, during the time. He's very smart. And he became another famous Dr. Lin. He wrote many books about Chinese medicine. Even today, you still can't find it. His books actually is at the top of the Chinese People's Publishing House.
Oh, wow.
Yes. And
Now, is he also Waiko? Was he mostly
Yes,
dealing with external issues?
yes, he's white coat. Yeah, because that's his father's legacy, right?
Right.
So you still can't find it. He wrote many journal papers about the clinical experience. Even today, you can find it. And he has several books and become like a textbook in Chinese medicine.
That's fantastic. It's so funny how things go sometimes and the relationships between people and, and how sometimes we come together and then there's falling outs and then there's some kind of reconciliation later or something like this where your grandfather teaches the son of the man he learned from.
Exactly.
That's amazing. And then, so then your father, did he learn all his medicine from his dad or did he go to school? How did
No,
he
actually,
come along?
my father is a Western physician.
Oh my goodness. Okay.
Yes, and actually, while my grandfather studied with Dr. Ling, and Dr. Ling was very active. Actually, at that time, even that time, there's a movement among the Chinese medicine is called 中西汇通. You know,
Mm-hmm.
it's a combined integrative medicine. They already have surfaced. So there are a group of practitioners organize some movement, try to learn from the Western medicine together how to apply it to Chinese medicine. And Dr. Lin was a very active member of that. And so my grandfather was influenced by that. So when he have his own practice, he decided he wanted to have an integrative medicine clinic. So he told my uncle, which is his older son, to study Chinese medicine with him. And he told my father and say, you should go to study Western medicine.
Oh, that's interesting. And what year is this?
That was 1940s.
1940s.
Yeah.
So the war, this is like in the middle of the war.
Exactly.
That your father goes to study medicine.
Yes. And my grandfather was hope. And, he was very successful. He has some money now. So he actually built a 2-story house in the town and spent a lot of money. His dream, I never talked to him, but his dream that he wanted to have a clinic that both his sons that practice there. And one is Chinese medicine, one is Western medicine. But it never happened. And, things change.
Things change.
Yeah, circumstances.
For sure.
Yeah, so my uncle actually stayed with him to practice after, he went to he worked at a hospital, and he just passed away, my uncle, just a couple of years ago, at the 96.
So your uncle learned the Chinese medicine. Your father learned the Western medicine. And then how do you come into the picture?
Oh, okay. So I grew up in, because my father is Western physician and my mother actually is a lab technician. And, so I basically grew up in the hospital that she works. And because she carried me around.
This is funny. I grew up, all my family, extended family, they were small business people. And so I remember growing up as a kid, like in my grandparents' furniture store. We'd play around in the furniture store. I'm imagining you growing up in a hospital.
Yes, because
you're just like the kid running around.
Exactly. I was running around all the different room, different, to look at these places that carry the bodies. Because that was interesting is that my mother, the hospital at that time was not really in the city. It's kind of between city and in the rural area. So there's a lot of farmers coming in. And unfortunately, there's a lot of people at that time commit suicide. They drink pesticides.
Oh, suicide by pesticide.
Yeah, they just drink it because that's only available. It happens so often, so many times. And when they, of course, they've been carried to the hospital, try to save their life. They just put their body in the hallway and you can just see them. And it's right on there. So I was just
And
walking.
You're a little kid. You're running around, and this is just part of the milieu of you growing up. You're seeing all this stuff.
Yes. I see too many dead bodies. Literally, yeah, dead bodies. So, and, I stay overnight with my mom because she had to, as a lab technician, you had to get in the lab in every middle of the night. So I was there. So, and my father happened to have several books that in the home, in a shelf. It was one of them is Barefoot Doctor Manual. That was brand new. And so that's curious, always open up and see all these, the needles, the anatomy and the points. I don't understand it, but it's interesting just looking around.
And isn't it wonderful? I have a similar thing, and I've talked to many guests too. They read their parents' books because they're just little kids and they're around, and so they get influenced by the stuff that their folks have in terms of books.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's very powerful.
Very powerful. I think that's the thing. Then, and when the one thing come when in my high school, in the first year of high school, we actually get to study Chinese medicine, acupuncture. in high
In
school.
high school. In
Ex-
high school.
Exactly, in high school.
And what year is this?
That was during Cultural Revolution.
This is during the Cultural Revolution.
You know, the Cultural Revolution, the Mao said that the students needed to learn some practical things, right? And not just the academics. That's his
Yeah.
idea. So,
there's people today that would say the same thing. Students need to learn some practical things.
yes. And
Something's never changed.
Yes, have never changed. So in my high school, I remember we have like 10 classes, I think, 10 classes. Each class will have 30 students. And one year that the school leadership said, we are follow the Mao's order. So that we have implement some practical classes. And so one class you study carpentry. One class you study gardening.
Mm-hmm.
One class is studying, sewing, how to prepare sewing the clothes. And the U class study acupuncture.
Oh my goodness. How old are you now when you're studying acupuncture?
That was 16, I think.
You were 16.
Yeah.
And what did you think about it at the time?
I was excited. I was excited. So we don't know what to expect it, but, that's different than the academic classes. So we have these classes. They actually somehow they invited the doctors coming to class to teach us from the very beginning. And by the end, we actually have a one session. I don't remember how many one session. Actually, we went to hospital to actually see the performance. And we actually, one session, we allowed to get into the operating room and to look at the operations and how the acupuncture apply on these, patients. And
now, okay, all right, hang on a second. There's a lot here. I want to dig into this a little bit. I remember when I was in acupuncture school. Actually, I was your grandfather's age when I went to acupuncture school.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, I was 36 when I went to acupuncture school. And I remember when we were first learning, it was so interesting. Of course, we were excited about it, and we'd practice on each other, the different students. Were you doing things like that as well? Were you practicing?
Oh, yeah. We were practicing on each other, and then we had allowed to go to hospital that actually in the real clinic to watching the doctors treating. I still remember that Dr. Chen. I still remember her name. And to look at it, at first to look at her treating patient.
Watch doctors do it. Now, did you get a chance to practice on real patients?
Yes. Then later on, she said, you do it. I said, what? You said, go ahead. Do it. And so we started practicing on the patients. And actually, that was a very memorable moment. And
I'll bet.
Yeah.
Now, you said that you were doing, or you were watching acupuncture in the surgery room.
Yes, that's the operating room.
Operating room.
Yes.
Tell us about that.
Well, we watching, beyond that, we are not allowed actually at that time allowed that go inside. We have beyond the glasses, just observing to watching that. And they give us some acupuncture into the patient, under the wrist, Hegu, the large intestine 4, and PC6. Usually that's the place they give all the time. And then they give them operating and, they cut them open.
Was this for anesthesia, or was this more for helping people recover? What was the purpose of doing acupuncture at that time?
That was anesthesia, I think. That was actually some of my students and friends that fainted when they first time see the blood come out. It was very dramatic.
I'm sure.
Yeah.
So they weren't using regular anesthesia. They were just using acupuncture, or was there a combination?
I don't know the detail, but I think they use both. They both use the medicine and the acupuncture. But this is still being practiced today in China. It's a limited setting, but it's still been going on. I think one of the hospitals in Shanghai still use acupuncture to do the anesthesia during the operation. I remember the BBC, I don't know whether you saw this episode. The BBC had a documentary, very short documentary. They went to China and documented entire open heart surgery.
Yes, I've heard stories like this.
Yeah,
but I've never seen it myself.
Yeah, I saw that. That was one of the highlights of our
Wow.
program. And,
As a high school student.
high school, exactly. So soon after I graduated, we finished the program as a year long. And one of my mother's colleagues and came to me say, "Your mother say you will study acupuncture." My mother and her mother just had a stroke. Would you treating her?
Oh. Okay. Now,
No,
get to
actually,
work.
so she was my first patient ever.
Oh, my goodness. What was it like for you at that moment? Right? This is like, a friend of your mom's. They've got a stroke. You're a brand new acupuncturist. What was going through your head?
I say, sure, yeah, let's do it. Can I do it? I don't know, but I think I said, yeah, it's fine. Well, it's free. I don't charge anything. And I say, I'm glad that she let me to treating her mother. I'm not officially acupuncturist at that time. It was not even licensed. There's no license. That's just a high school course.
Yes. And is this still during the Cultural Revolution?
Yeah, that was during cultural.
Yeah.
It never happened
things
again.
were chaotic anyway. So,
yeah.
all right, we're going to grab this high school kid. He knows something.
Well, that's just the family kind of friends.
Yes.
So that was actually my sort of extensive experience with acupuncture, study from there. And then things move on. I actually went to medical school and later on went to Chinese medical school in Hangzhou. Now it's called Chinese Medical University. And in the graduate from 1983 from that. Then, officially you start practice. I was actually start teaching and Chinese medicine at that time. One of the subject is Huangdi Neijing. I was part of the teaching group of Huangdi Neijing, so start teaching and see some patients on the side. And yeah, then in 1990, I came to America.
This episode is brought to you by Jane, the clinic management software designed to help you provide great care for your patients. Appointments can feel like they're over in the blink of an eye, which is why it's so important to make the most of your time with your patients. With online intake forms, Jane helps you arrive prepared to maximize your moments together. Start by automating the intake experience. Jane can automatically send out forms at the time of booking and a gentle email or SMS reminder if there are any unfinished documents. You can also choose to collect consent, credit card information, and insurance details through your intake forms before your patient even arrives. You'll start appointments informed with all the information you need, organized in easy-to-find spots on their profile. To learn more about Jane, head to meet.jane.app/documentation, where you can book a demo or sign up if you're ready to go. Oh, and be sure to use the code Qiological for a 1-month grace period on your new Jane account. Okay, so 1983, you're teaching, you're practicing, you're seeing patients too, I suppose.
Yes, I do.
Yeah?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
And 1990, you come to America. Okay, fill me in. What brings you to America?
Well, the one thing is that because at that time, I studied English, around that time in China, all young people wanted to come to abroad, want to study. It was a time, 1980s, was a time in China that's a freedom. That's a key theme. People are so hungry to looking for new ideas. And in China, young people, you read a ton of different books and you meet different people. You are very excited about the world.
So the 80s were a time of openness and looking outward.
Exactly.
And as a young person, there was a lot of opportunity. Am I hearing that correctly?
Exactly. Because you can imagine during the Cultural Revolution, everything was closed. And
Yes.
China just started open to the rest of the world. And my school had some acupuncture students come in from the United States. And so that I met with them. So I was like a translator, interpreter with them.
Oh, what a great spot. Now, how did you learn your English?
Well, I just through the high school, and then I went to a couple, English training classes locally. And so that's how I learned.
Okay, but you learned it well enough to do translation.
Well, not well, but it's okay. I don't think I'm well. So
But good enough.
good enough. You can
还
say
可
that.
以，
还可以，还可以。
还可以。
马马虎虎，马马虎
Mama,
虎。
horse, horse, tiger, tiger. I know.
Yeah, Mama Huhu. Yeah. So I met with Ora Grotsky and Nathan Spivey, and so they were all graduated from the NISA.
Wait,
And
I'm sorry. Who did you meet with?
Ora, O-R-A, Ora Grotsky. And
Oh,
you probably never heard the name.
No, I have not.
She's younger, but she's one of the deans of the NISA at some point.
So the folks from NISA came to your school.
Yes,
And you were the translator.
exactly.
Ah, I see. Okay.
Yeah, and that's connecting dots. And then
Yeah.
the Nathan Spivey, he also is one of the oldest of, I don't remember, he's the first or second class of NISA. And he also came to our school. And so I was their translators. So that's how I got to know. And at the time, everybody wanted to go to United States and America. And so I asked Aura, say, can you help me? And she said, I don't have money because at that time you need a sponsor, so
Yes, of course.
sponsor.
Yes.
And
Still do.
Still do, exactly. So actually, she had her father to sponsor me. And finally, I was able to get a visa and come to the United States. But during that time, there's another thing happened, the Tiananmen Square.
Ah, yes.
Yes. And so the environment has changed quite a bit. And
So there was this openness that was going on. Tiananmen Square happens,
1989.
and it starts to close down again. Do I have that right?
Exactly. And
Mm.
Aura and Nathan, they all came right before 1989, early on, in the May 1989. It was, it's complete change. And so it's time to go.
Time to go.
Yes.
So it's like, go now or not get out.
Yes. And so I left, and I went to Nebraska.
Nebraska.
Yes. Have you been to
Nebraska.
Have you been to Nebraska?
Okay, so you went from you went from Zhejiang, beautiful Zhejiang,
Hangzhou, yeah.
Hangzhou,
Yeah.
Hangzhou Suzhou, right?
Yeah.
What's that
Yeah.
phrase about,
上有
It's like-
天
it's like-
堂，下有苏杭. Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah. This heaven, and
Above there's heaven and below there's
Hangzhou and
Suzhou,
Suzhou.
Hangzhou.
Exactly.
Yeah, Suzhou. I know, such a beautiful country. And then you land in Nebraska. Welcome
Exactly.
to the cornfields and wheat fields. Okay, look, there's no Chinese medicine schools that I know of in Nebraska. How did you get to Nebraska?
Well, I had to find, I was looking for, as a student, you had to looking for the field, a profession to study, but there was none about the relate to acupuncture or Chinese
So you're
medicine.
coming on a student visa.
Yes. I come on as a student,
Okay,
international student.
got it.
At that time, I applied for a nutrition.
Okay, so you weren't like going to NISA
No,
to teach there.
no.
You were going to Nebraska as a student.
to study nutrition. Okay. A completely different way because there's no acupuncture on this international student. I went to library many times. You couldn't find any of these, the schools.
Okay.
Okay. So that's the closest I could find that
Uh-huh.
relate to some of the nutrition, close to Chinese medicine, herbal medicine.
Yes, yes, I see.
If you stretch enough, you couldn't make
Uh-huh.
a connection there.
Yeah, 找个办法, find a way.
Exactly. So you have to leave. I have to leave. So that's the way I end up there.
Okay.
But as you know, Nebraska is nice. Actually, it's very quiet, but it's a decent place. And I bet most of your audience have never been to Nebraska.
Probably not. I've been to a lot of states. I have not been to Nebraska. I've been to Kansas,
Kansas, yes, yeah.
but that's as close as I've gotten.
Yeah.
So what was it like living in Nebraska? How was
I
that
was
for
a
you?
student. I was working in.
You're happy to be there.
I'm happy to be there, and
Yeah.
I was making burger. That's my first time. I work at the student cafe, right? And I never see hamburger before in my entire life. But first day I work at this, I wash dishes, the student union.
Yes,
And
you're working for the school.
yeah,
Work study.
cafeteria, yeah, the study. And I still remember my wage was like $4.25 per hour.
And you were making burgers, like the classic American symbol, right?
Exactly. And I really want to eat it, but I never get a chance to eat one. I'm making them, but because if you have to eat them, you have to buy them. My manager don't give us like a free burger.
No free burger? You don't get a meal shift?
No, we get every 4 hours you get one of the ice cream. That's allowed.
But no burger.
No burger. And so I'll flip over. He teaching you how to do it. Very, very easy to flip over. And as I learned in the 5 minutes how to do this. And but at that time I feel that was too expensive to buy one. So I just went back to cook my Chinese meal in my dorm.
So when did you first get to eat a burger?
I don't remember. I think I haven't eaten burger for a long time. I never had a pizza either. And I went in China.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember when I was still in China, at that time already dating with my wife, and we walk over on the street, we see the Burger King. I think a McDonald's, a Burger King opened up in the city. And I look it up. I told my wife, someday I will bring to your United States. We will eat as much as we can.
That's great.
That was a symbol of luxury, actually.
Yes, of course.
Yeah, so I'm not even dare to walk into it to buy one.
Right, it's a luxury brand.
Exactly.
That's amazing. So you're in Nebraska, you're studying nutrition.
Yes.
Then what?
Then the aura said, why don't you come to NISA to teach? I ran out of money, and my mother borrowed some money for me to pay tuition, but kind of runs out. And
it does that. You spend your money and then you have to eat. Hey, now were you doing acupuncture for people?
No, you can't. No. Well, actually, first of all, I would, but I didn't do anything. And nobody knows about acupuncture at that time. And they said, oh, you're a Chinese doctor in China, but you're just a student. So nobody actually come to me and say, would you treat me? So I don't have any clients. And I didn't intend to do this anyway. I would just study. I want to start a new life, right? And completely forget my past.
So wait a minute. Let me just make sure I understand this. As far as you were concerned, you were giving up acupuncture. It's like, I don't need to do this anymore.
I think I might, yeah.
Oh, I might.
I might, because if I could find a nutrition, but I have no idea how I get into it. And if I find a job, I might give up.
Mm-hmm.
And at that time, but turns out that was not that case. It's not meant to be. And so the aura say, why don't you come to NISA to teach? Actually, I ran out of money. I don't know how I can finish the school. And I remember every night I wake up, I just soak with the sweat because I'm panic. I say, I can't go back to China.
Nope.
Right?
Nope. You can't go back empty-handed.
Yes. Yeah. No. My mother borrowed the money from my uncle.
Yeah. And, you got to have something to show for it.
Yeah, exactly. So she said, well, come on to NISA. We need you. So that's why I landed in Boston. I left.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah. I left Nebraska and went to Boston and I went to NISA. So I started teaching there.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. And
so when Ling Shu?
No, actually, Huangdi Neijing. Well,
Huangdi Neijing Ling Shu?
Yeah, no, I think I started actually teaching the Chinese herbal medicine and some acupuncture classes. And when I remember I started teaching at NISA, that was 1992, exactly. So, I met with many great colleagues, like Andy Gamble was there. And so I started building up the herbal medicine department. That's what I've been focused on because acupuncture already a lot of great teachers are there.
Mm-hmm.
And so I taught almost every courses in the NISA, and I created many of them actually. I created the herbal pharmacy. There was no herbal pharmacy there. Now I remember that was
So you got the herbal pharmacy going.
Yes, I built up from the scratch. I actually remember I proposed we need a herbal pharmacy, right? And Andy Gamble, he said that he has a home herbal pharmacy at his house, but he said it's very hard to manage it. So he want to give it to NISA.
Aha.
So,
it is hard to manage. It's a lot of work to manage an herbal pharmacy.
Exactly. So I remember one afternoon we went to his house and to take down all these shelves, all these boxes and containers, then bring back to the NISA. I did that, and with a couple other students.
Now, was Andy also teaching there at NISA? Was he all very involved with herbs? I mean, I remember when I was studying and reading the Materia Medica, first edition, his name was on it.
Oh, yeah. First time I met him, I was a little surprised. His Chinese is so good. When here, if you don't see his face, just hear his, speaking in Chinese, you will not know he's American. He has no accent. I was very surprised. Wow, what is the world? This person, American can speak Mandarin so good.
Some people have a talent for it.
I think, yeah, he does. Later on, actually, we also work at the NCCAOM and for the herbal testing committee. I was a part of that. We were sitting there in the room, develop all these different tests, the item bank for many years. They took us to the DC, and one time we went to Philadelphia, and Andy was there, and the other people. We are sit together, just come out all different kind of herbal medicine questions. So I think some of the items may still there when you take NCCAOM.
So you've been very involved. Well, it sounds like both acupuncture and the herbal medicine, but in particular, the herbal medicine.
Yes, I was the chair of the herbal medicine department and at the NISA. And I also made herbal sample books, and the student needed to learn the herbs, but they couldn't see what it is. So I actually literally made many of these books with a sample in it, the folding, they can have it.
You know what? I remember making charts. I didn't have a book, but I remember getting little baggies and putting the herbs in it, and I would just have it on my wall.
Yes. Okay. Yeah, so we have a herbal pharmacy. I think it's still running today. And then, but in the raw herb, as you know, it's very difficult to manage with all the bugs and you had the dust. So I'm not sure they still have this raw herbal pharmacy now, but it's going on for many years. And then we kind of switch to the powder, granules, KPCs, all these herbal products into our pharmacy.
Yeah, I'm curious about this. When did you start to make this switch? And when you first started using granules, what did you think about them in terms of potency and usefulness?
Well, at first I was a little doubt, and when they came, and it's a really culture shock. In the practice in China is very different than practice here. So you can see first of all, you came to here, I say, the NISA is famous for Japanese style acupuncture. I did have an encounter on that. I say, can this still treating disease and can heal the illness? I really doubt. It's so light.
It's so light.
Yes. And so that was one thing. But also I noticed that my patients Americans are really sensitive to the needles. So my Chinese style, this strong stimulation, the qi sensation, may not be the best for some of the patients. So I had to adapt my practice too.
Yes.
So there is a transition time for a couple of years. I was struggling how to adapt into the American culture and dealing with American students, the patients and the students too. So,
of course, well, even under the best of circumstances, adapting to another culture, living in another culture, is going to take time anyway.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
There's always that. And my goodness, if you're used to doing medicine a certain way, and now all of a sudden you're in a different place and people, they're completely not used to how you work.
Exactly. So
That,
it's
that would be tough.
very tough. Actually, then now I feel that if a Chinese doctor, even their experience, they come to U.S. right away, they may not do well, because Chinese culture is very different when you're dealing with the patients in practice. You have to make adjustment. Sometimes it had to be very significant. Sometimes you have to be retrained in some way.
Mm,
Yeah. So, well, regarding these granules, so I think
yes.
at first I was actually also skeptical because there was no granule in China at that time. And there was KBCs and First Came and other brand and showed up. Mostly that was from Taiwan, made in Taiwan.
Yes,
Yeah.
that's originally,
Yeah.
that technology comes from Japan.
Yes.
And because of Japan's connection with Taiwan, it, migrated down there.
Yes.
So,
Yeah. So I at first I said this can be effective, but now I think it works pretty well.
so what changed your mind? What did you notice that changed your mind about it?
I think there's a couple aspects. One is effectiveness. I do looking into the effectiveness, and I look at some data and the literature to look at the up. And also I start to adopt my own practice. I start to using granules instead of raw herbs. And secondly is the convenience, and American patients are more adaptive to the granules instead of raw herbs. I have so many patients that just couldn't do the raw herbs, so you can imagine.
I can imagine because I used to use raw herbs in my practice when I first began. I was very strict about that.
Yeah.
Granules were just beginning to become popular, and I'm thinking to myself, yeah, no, I don't think so. That's not real.
Exactly. I agree with you.
This isn't real. This can't possibly be useful. I didn't even investigate it. I just looked at it and thought, no, I don't think so.
Exactly. I was exactly, your same thoughts. Yeah.
Yeah. And then I ended up in Taiwan for a few years. And my teacher in Taiwan, he used them all the time. But the thing that really got my attention with it is that before this guy became my teacher, I saw him because I was sick. A friend of mine took me there. I couldn't even speak Chinese at that point. And this old guy gives me, all this powder, weirdest formula I'd ever heard of, right? And it's this powder, and I'm thinking, what's this going to do? But I was really sick. I thought, I better take it, right? It's all I got. I better take it. And it was ridiculously effective. I had a very bad cold. And like by the next day, I was 80% better. It's like, oh my goodness, there's something to this.
Absolutely. And actually, I went to Taiwan too. And 1 year, they were inviting me to give a talk. And so I went there. Actually, I get a chance to look at it, the Chinese medicine pharmacy and the granules. It's amazing. They have this automated whole process.
It's incredible.
It's incredible.
It really is.
I wish we have these. We wish we have this in the hospital settings, but maybe in the future. And actually, I visited my grandfather's tomb. He actually buried different grandfather, my mother's side.
Mm.
That's another story that he ended up in Taiwan. He died there.
Oh, he ended up in Taiwan.
Yes.
Was he part of the Kuomintang?
Yes, my mother's side. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, he had to leave.
He had to get out of town.
He had to, he had another family in Taiwan. And so I have 2 grandmothers on my mother's side. And I didn't see this grandfather. I didn't see him for many years until I'm in Boston. He finally showed up. My mother told me he was dead, but she never told me. And he was in Taiwan.
He was in Taiwan.
Yeah. When I was young and I asked him where's my grandfather, and she said, he's dead.
A little too dangerous to know what really happened.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But I'm glad if I finally met him, and in Boston, he showed up.
How did that happen?
Well, he had another family when he left. There's another dramatic story. He escaped from the mainland and through the boat from the Wenzhou, which is my mother's hometown, to the Taiwan in 1950s. So he would never came back. He was not able to come back. So he had another family.
Mm-hmm.
He married another family, had children. And one of his daughter in Taiwan married another guy, and they also moved to U.S. in Auburn University. So her children end up at MIT in Boston.
Oh, my goodness.
Yes. So we both end up in Boston.
End up in Boston.
Yes. And so finally my grandfather came to visit them and then ended up in Boston. And I finally saw him. I think I already saw him once because we spent...
But you didn't even know he was alive.
Yes. No, I didn't know. But then he finally showed up, and that was a very, very precious moment that I'll spend time with him before he passed away.
So did he seek you out? He knew you were there.
Yeah, he knew, I'm in Boston. At that time, we already started to communicate after that, So, but I never met him in person. And when I was little, I just didn't know he was...
Didn't even know he existed.
He
Wow.
existed. Because
Funny how things go.
Yeah, but, he cannot be mentioned during that time.
Right.
Yeah. But anyway, so finally I met him. That was great. And then he went back to Taiwan. He passed away. And he buried in the Taichung Wufeng. I don't know about Taichung.
I know Taichung.
Yeah, so I visited his tomb there. And also I went to all these Chinese medicine clinics. And,
Yeah, there's a big Chinese medicine school in Taichung.
Yes. Yeah, it was, interesting,
So what are you doing these days?
Well, my life can be divided into 3 stages. One is time I'm spending in China. And the second is time I spend in Nisa. And the
Nisa
third,
and Nebraska.
Nebraska. Yeah, Nebraska is a short time, but Nisa is the most time. I went through all these different up and down, the Nisa. It was quite interesting. And with the Nisa fellows. And now the Nisa moved to the Worcester. They merged with the Mass College of Pharmacy and the health science.
It's a whole different thing. And you say it exactly like a Bostonian. Worcester.
Worcester, yes. But then I decided not to go because I was quite busy at Dana-Farber. So now the third part is what I'm current is that I'm working at the Dana-Farber Cancer Institute. I joined that 25 years now in 2020. I went to Harvard and I studied.
It's hard to believe that 2020 was 25 years ago.
Yeah, exactly. I can't believe it either.
Yeah. So tell me about your work there.
Oh, I was there as an acupuncturist. So that's a story. I was, I taught the herbs for my entire life and I created all these. And one of the interesting courses I created in NISA is the herbal drug interaction. I started that courses and studied the Chinese herbal pharmacology and tried to blend it with the modern pharmacology with the herbal medicine together. But now at Dana-Farber, which is the Harvard's Cancer Hospital, and I mostly use acupuncture or only use acupuncture. The policy is that no herbs.
They don't do herbs. Unlike Sloan Kettering and some others, they're not using herbs.
Not yet.
Not yet.
Not
I like
yet.
your attitude.
Yeah, not yet. And you need a little inch by inch. This kind of establishment, it take a while to move the needles.
Mm-hmm.
I feel that I'm doing some work there. And when I first joined this in 2020, and they established a center called the Zakem Center, and they want to find a practitioner to see patients. So I was interviewed and by a whole bunch of people in the entire room. Actually, I don't remember how many, 20 people in the room to interview one of the acupuncturists. And then
no pressure there. I can't imagine being in an interview with 20 people.
Exactly. But I don't know what I got into. And then they told me, say, you go back and we'll let you know. Well, I was go back to NISA teaching. I said, I don't care. And it took 2 years. And they said, we want you, come here.
It took 2 years.
Yes. 2 years later, and I forgot about this. And they said that we are into operation. You come here. So I started at the part-time, 4 hours a week to see patient. But there was no patient at all. I would just sit there. Of course, they pay me the 4 hours of a salary.
Yeah, so why are there no? I mean, I'm sure they have cancer patients. Why? But why no patients?
Well, usually in the hospital, the patient need to be referred. And the patient is not just come to you. They need to refer by the doctors or the practitioners. Nobody refers that to you.
So there's a whole system that you have to be connected to
Exactly.
get the referrals.
Yes. So nobody showed up, and I was, for many months, I was, one a while that people hear that they come, but it's not regular. It's very sporadic. Most time you just sit there, do nothing. Obviously I use this time to study, to just try to know about the cancer and the oncology. And so I self-studied all these. I didn't know much about the cancer actually at that time. What your training in China the most is just internal medicine, but it's still a big difference. In the cancer world is an entire different world. So I had to learn these things. And so now I create this specialty called oncology acupuncture. That's my goal now. And my goal is that I want to make oncology acupuncture as a specialty that the practice in all the cancer hospitals in the United States.
That's a big dream.
It is. I don't know whether I can do that, but I think I see there's some sign. There's a couple of signs. And the one, we have the term, the oncology acupuncture. I started to I wrote this in one of the article, oncology acupuncture. That's the first time, and ever, 2008. Then, in the 2017, and NCI, National Cancer Institute, had a conference. There's a government NCI conference called Acupuncture for Symptom Management. And in that paper, I attended, I presented, and they say the oncology acupuncture is a specialty of a practice. So they recognize that.
So it's beginning to gain some acceptance. Now, are you doing any kind of research? What kinds of things are you doing to promote its acceptance? You've been there for 25 years now.
Exactly. I did a lot of research on that, and I actually get the NIH grant, the K grant, and that's through the David Eisenberg, the OSHA Center. I was an OSHA fellow. Have you heard the OSHA?
Yes, I have.
Yeah, David Eisenberg was the first director there, and I'm grateful that he brought me into the OSHA and helped me to get the grant, to get the training. So I did quite a few acupuncture clinical trials, oncology acupuncture clinical trials, and many of them. And the recent one is the international trial, 3 countries, that gets just published last year, 2024, involved Dana-Farber, China, and South Korea on the breast cancer patients.
Oh, so this is an international study.
Yes, acupuncture.
And what did you find out?
Well, we are looking at whether acupuncture can help reduce the hot flashes and improving quality of life in breast cancer patients who are taking the called endocrine therapies, which involve the tamoxifen, letrozole, these drugs.
I think anyone who's in clinical practice and has treated women with breast cancer, they're familiar with how for certain medications, like you're just describing, hot flashes can be a real issue. Neuropathy too.
Yeah, neuropathy is one that we just completed. We are still analyzing data now. And the hot flash, we are just published a main study published in the American Cancer Society journal called Cancer last year. It was well received. And I also did another interesting study, which I could continue, is that I did acupuncture on the neutropenia and the ovarian cancer patient to raise the white blood cells. That study was positive. Actually, we did see the sign that acupuncture could raise white blood cells in the neutropenic patients. But it is a small study, it's a pilot study, so it's early sign. And, when you do these signs, you need to be step by step, take years to get this, get this number of the patient enough that people say, yes, that makes sense.
You're a patient man.
I am, but the time runs out.
It does.
Time runs out. I do feel, but I think, speaking of the oncology acupuncture, there's another thing is that the oncology acupuncture, believe it or not, actually, these cancer centers, American cancer centers, called the NCI designated cancer hospitals, which is one of the best and cancer hospitals in the U.S., 80%, close to 80% of these cancer centers have acupuncture, somewhat form acupuncture practice.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, many people don't know that, and actually
Yeah.
they do.
Now, are these acupuncturists doing the work, or are these medical doctors that have had some training, or nurse
Most
practitioners? Who's doing the work here?
acupuncturists.
Acupuncturists.
I think acupuncture is going to be a major player in that field. Doctors don't want to do it. One, they don't know how to do it. And the second, even they know, they don't have a time. The third, economically, it's not viable to them.
No, of course not.
Yes.
Yeah. If you're an oncologist, you're already busy with other things.
Yeah, oncology would never do this. But even for there's a doctor interested, but they have not get into it. But they're usually not, oncologists, they treating cancer patients, and there's much more in high demand too. So there's this gap, manpower gap, the human power. I think a licensed acupuncturist really can play a major role here. I want to build a team, a force in this area. Well, actually, in October, this coming October 27th, and we're going to have an Oncology Acupuncture 101 workshop at the Harvard Medical School in Boston.
So this is the first of the classes that you've been thinking about teaching?
That's the second time, actually.
Second time.
We did it once in the 2015. That was the same in Boston. We had over 40 countries showed up. We have probably 50 people showed up.
Different countries?
Yes. It's this is the part of a Society for Integrative Oncology, and I don't know if you heard this society. I'm involved with this society. It's more like an integrative medicine, but focused on the cancer patients. So they're going to have the annual conference this year in Boston in this October, and our workshop, Oncology Acupuncture 101, is accepted as the pre-conference workshop.
Oh, that's fantastic.
To be second time, but we're much better. We have much more content now, 10 years later. And we're actually, believe it or not, there's many guidelines that issued that say acupuncture can help the cancer patients. And you know who are issued these guidelines? Our top professional Western medicine oncology professional organizations, such as ASCO, NCCN, SIO, So all these organizations, that's top professional organizations, they have guidelines that recommend acupuncture for cancer patients.
I did not know that. And that is really positive news.
Absolutely. I think that we're using this as a platform to spread our words, to teach acupuncturists to do, we call it evidence-based practice, right?
Yes, of course.
Yeah, you need some evidence. So we have evidence now after this 20 years since I've been here in the U.S. We have more evidence now. We have more evidence come out every day. But we have to use them well, because a lot of times when the evidence come out, people just read it and forgot about that. And many acupuncturists don't know even it exists. I think that's a little sad, and I think we should spread the words, and the people should look into this. These are very powerful. This evidence, like a published journal papers about acupuncture, this is a very powerful tool to teach our Western medicine colleagues about acupuncture.
Well, it sounds like you are in a position at this time, and you've been there for a while. You've built this over time. The research, the connections, the practice, the teaching. If people listening to this wanted to know more, is there a website that they would go to? Is there a way that they can find out about the studies that you've been involved with, or just the studies that are being done internationally? Because it sounds like the work is being done all over the world.
Oh, yeah, it's all over the world. This is Europe, and some guideline mentioned actually from one organization called ASMO, and it's the European Medical Society of the Oncology, and it's from Europe side. And, the United States actually is a hub. You may think of the acupuncture from China, but the oncology acupuncture actually was born here.
I'm John Stan, co-creator of AcuFast Needles and Accessories. I've been an acupuncturist for 35 years, and I know how easy it is to get comfortable in our clinic flow, the needles we use, and the routines we follow. But what if 10 colleagues rave about a needle they love? One that's good for the environment. Would you hesitate to jump on board? Or what if I told you that for just 50 cents more per treatment, you could add oxygen and shade to the planet? Would you spend the extra pennies or simply raise your fee that tiny bit? These are the choices practitioners face when first considering our AccuFast Earth-friendly needle. For some, change is super easy. For others, it takes some effort. Yet, clinics worldwide are making AccuFast the fastest growing needle brand, and that's despite competitors trying to imitate us. Why? Because we're more than just a great needle. We're about solutions. Our accessories make multi-needle packaging smooth, fast, and controlled, so you can focus on patients, not packaging. So join me and the thousands of practitioners in our movement, because for every 2 boxes a clinic uses, we plant a tree. I encourage you to visit acufastneedles.com/geological today for samples and to learn more.
Isn't it wonderful that acupuncture has traveled not just to the United States, it's traveled all over the world. There's nowhere in the world where you can't find it. I've talked to people on the podcast that, they're in South America, they're in the United States, they're in Europe, all over, Ireland, everywhere. So oncology acupuncture is something that's come out of the practice and the culture of the United States.
Yes. Yeah. If you look it up. So now China is catching up, obviously. And so, if you look at this technology transfer, the knowledge transfer, initially from east to the west, especially in Chinese medicine and acupuncture. But now you can see some of these actually transfer back. So I think it's very fascinating. I think I feel fortunate that I could have some impact in this particular niche. And I think there's a need, our patients need it. And also I'm excited about see acupuncturists become part of the Western medicine delivery system in the hospital settings. It's very different because many acupuncturists are free wills, and free will person will have a hard time. They work in the hospital.
I know for myself, I don't have the personality to work in a hospital. But look, that's just me. And there are plenty of people who do. And beyond that, there are plenty of people who want to. They want to do what it takes to be able to take this medicine, to take this fantastic. Acupuncture is an amazing technique. It's an amazing medicine. And it is wonderful that it's being more and more accepted and that we're able to use it in situations like this, in cancer centers. Now, people who would like to know more about this, or be able to do this work, what's your suggestion?
Well, I think first of all, they could sign up for this Oncology Acupuncture 101. They can go to the Society for Integrative Oncology website, and it's all there. They can sign up now. The $75 if you early bird registration, $75. And after that, it will be $100. You can just sign up for this. You don't have to sign up.
It's still a bargain. It's still a bargain. That's a crazy bargain.
Yes. We just give a very core essence, the 101. And we hope we'll have 102 and 103. It's fascinating. I've been seeing so many, because now the hospital, the Dana-Farber, in our clinic, the doctors sending all kind of patients. All kind of cancers, very rare cancers. You probably see 1 in a million people, and they showed up in our clinic. And also the newest technology treatment method they are giving the cancer patient, for example, CAR T therapy. But they all have side effects, unbelievable side effects. People are suffering. Even their cancer could be cured in some way, which it happens. It's fascinating. But these people still have tremendous suffering. Acupuncture can help them. So there's a lot of things we could do to help our patients, and also, expanding our impact to the society. I feel that acupuncture, Chinese medicine, is the great gift that, Chinese culture can bring to the world. And so personally, I want to continue work on that direction, is that to set up this structure that can continue even after I retired, and you never know when something happened, and so you can continue to move forward. Which I think the momentum is there now. It just need a little push.
It takes time to build momentum. I don't think there's such thing as momentum. There's no such thing as instant momentum. There's acceleration. That can go pretty fast, but momentum takes time. It really does. And man, you've been there for 25 years. It sounds like you're getting traction. And isn't it wonderful to have work that is so just like nourishing to the soul?
Yeah, I think I'm fascinated about what I'm doing. I think, you can help these patients and desperate and about disease, every day. Actually, I see them, with all the circumstances. And you feel that the medicine, that Chinese medicine, acupuncture can provide relief. It just feels so nice, from
Yeah.
my heart. When you see
Yes, from the
patients,
heart.
like you practice, that you love your practice because you see your patient gets better. It's a great reward that you have.
It is.
Yeah.
Now, the acupuncture that you guys are doing, I understand when you're doing Western research, you have to be very methodical, maybe not even using Chinese medicine diagnoses. Maybe you're just using, particular acupuncture points. Could you speak for a moment to the methods that you're using in terms of treatment and research?
Sure, yeah. So we're doing is called evidence-based. That's because, Dana-Farber is part of a Harvard Medical School. It's an academic medical center. So everything
Mm-hmm.
is, you had to be very academically, you have evidence, and you had to able to present the evidence. And that's one part of that. And the second is the safety, because the cancer patients are much more complicated. As our clinic grows, you see more complicated patients coming into your way. And some of you, many of you never thought before. You never see these people with all some multiple complexity and symptoms. You don't know what to do with them. So the practice is the evidence-based. That's the first part. And you try to find some clinical trials as the basis that you start with. Then regarding whether you do diagnosis, differentiation, pattern diagnosis, at this time we don't do that. We are not, one is practical thing is you're just too busy. To make up the differentiation, it takes a time. You take your cognitive capability, and when you have a very busy practice, it's just not very practical. And second is that I think the differentiation that we in Chinese medicine is a higher level. Higher level is a higher level of cognitive analysis. It requires a lot of resources, your mental resources too. You had to, this qi diagnosis, qi stagnation, this kidney ion deficiency, and all these things need to go through your mind. At this time, we are not ready for this. I think we're not ready for this. And it's too complicated for other practitioners. They don't understand. And if you're writing the notes, your epic notes, they say this patient has, what's that, So you have a yin deficiency and the yin yang imbalance. Maybe that's
Yeah, no,
okay. I think these days okay. But if you have too many these terms, you turn people off.
yes, you have to work within the constraints of the system that you're within.
Exactly. In the hospital, there's a lot of rules, regulations, and that's why you have to find a way to move forward. So sometimes you have to simplify things to make a communication more feasible and easily understood by other people, because your notes is seen by all kind of providers. Patients look at that, and your colleagues look at this, but the oncologists, nurses, nutritionists, social workers, everybody look at your notes. And you want to make sure everybody can know, oh, that makes sense. They should, oh, that makes sense. This guy doing a good job. At least now you harm patients, right? And so if too many TCM terms that are being mixed into it, that I don't think that serves the purpose.
Yeah, it would get in the way. It's such a complex system that treats cancer. You've got all these different, like you were saying, different practitioners, different disciplines. The team is big. And there needs to be some kind of common language and some common agreements. And so it's probably not fair to say that they're getting watered down acupuncture, but they're getting acupuncture that can fit within that system, within that matrix.
Absolutely, I agree. People may criticize this is now full spectrum of Chinese medicine, which I agree. I think that's true. It's not the traditional style, and
You know what? It might be the granularized form of acupuncture.
yeah, yes, exactly. You're right. You're right. And you have to adapt into the new environment.
Yes.
Just like me, I 100% Chinese. Came to this country. Actually, now, believe it or not, I spent my life, I have more years spent in the United States than I spent in China now.
You get to a certain age and you look back and it's surprising where you've been, isn't it?
I know, yes. So I feel I'm practically American now than a Chinese.
Iban.
Iban, exactly.
Yeah, half and half at this point.
Yes. But I think in the future, when things become suitable, actually, we will probably will incorporate into this basic Chinese tradition into the practice.
Yes, but it takes time, and it sounds, Wei Dong, like you have laid some really important groundwork over these years to allow acupuncture to come into a place like Dana-Farber and over time become accepted and become a part of that incredibly complex system that is the treatment of cancer.
Yes, I hope that more acupuncturists can get into this field, try to expanding the field. I think there is a shortage of a manpower, a specialist. I try to elevate the acupuncture to oncology acupuncture specialist status. And I feel this very few people can do this. For the acupuncturist, you already trained, you already practice, you see all the kind of patients, you have experience, you know where the points are, you know the pattern diagnosis. It's relatively easy to have a little more training to elevate, so you're able to see in the cancer patient. We have a hard time to actually refer patients out because of the patient the demand. They live far away, they want to see a local acupuncturist. And some we do, but some we have a hard time because, to find the appropriate practitioners to refer them out. So,
well, it's a good challenge, and I suspect there's people listening to this that are thinking, oh my goodness, maybe this is for me. Maybe this is something I could do. So I'll make sure that any kind of contact information that you would like to have put into people's hands will be on the website.
Absolutely. Thank you. And actually, the society, SIO, Society for Integrative Oncology, we actually have an Acupuncture 6 special interest group. And I was the funding co-chair of this group. So there are some acupuncturists who are interested already join it, SIO, and be part of this. And so there are people there, though I'm not alone. So and we are also writing some articles. We have a book chapter coming out soon. And so it takes a village to make it happen.
It does. And that village is international these days.
Absolutely.
Yes. Well, this is great. Again, I think there's people that will be delighted to have listened to this conversation, and maybe it's a direction that they want to go in. So we'll be sure to connect you guys up. Wei Dong, thank you for your time today. This has been a really fun conversation. And man, I think about your grandfather at age 36. Like, I'm going to change my life. I'm going to go learn this stuff. That really takes some courage.
Yes. So that's, we always in the family, we say, if my grandfather did not learn Chinese medicine and left the town that we used to be, so we're still farmers to this day. Actually, one of his brother, they didn't make any changes. My grandfather's brother, they still farmers. Even their children still farmers today in the outside of Shanghai. So my life has completely changed because my grandfather, he made a consciousness decision to go on Chinese medicine.
We can be so fortunate.
Yes.
Yes. All right. Well, this has been delightful, and maybe when I'm in Boston at some point, we'll get together and have a burger.
Oh, absolutely. Now I do eat a burger. And, yes, come to Boston. I can show you around and also the Dana-Farber, the cancer hospital. But,
I would love to have a tour.
oh, absolutely. I'd be happy to show you around on this. And yeah, come to NISA. And NISA is going to have a 50 years anniversary event.
50 years.
Yes.
Wow.
I have to say, you have done a great job to do this podcast, especially history series, and I have learned so much. I always tell people in NISA, say, we need writing the history of the NISA. Nobody writes it. You know what? Because during that time, and I have so many stories, some are very ugly stories among the NISA, these interesting figures, if you look at it back these days. But at that time, there's a lot of internal fight.
Of course. I mean, whenever you have people together trying to do something, everyone's often got opinions. Okay, we have just a few more minutes. What kind of fights were people having?
Well, there's a lot of fighting. I'm kind of sort of an outsider when I arrived in NISA. I'm Chinese. I don't know much. Actually, I didn't know. I heard that NISA was one of the oldest acupuncture school in the United States at that time.
I think it might be.
It might be. They were still argued. The people say, no, NISA was not. And there was one school in California still competing for who is the first. So over the years, I encountered many NISA older folks, went to school, saw the Dr. So, and told me a very interesting story about Dr. So, and also other guys who has been on your podcast, and there was a lot of fight and a lot of power structure struggling and each other, and also some kind of directions, whether you want to Chinese acupuncture is better than Japanese acupuncture, for example.
And then there's Wesleyan 5-element acupuncture.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. So there's a lot of fight and also some kind of romantic story going on there, blending into it. Maybe it's offline. Offline, we can talk about this. But this was very interesting.
NISA sounded a little bit like the wild, wild west back in those days.
Yeah, I think now looking back, early on, these people, Dr. So, Ted Kapchak, Kiko Matsumoto, Andy Gamble, Gold, and all are fascinating figures. So it's just, I think all together, they really make the acupuncture into the mainstream of America and the world. I think it's a fascinating story. And it's just some historian or maybe PhD students should just sit down and using the material you collected, writing a book.
Well, it's interesting. This history series, I didn't plan to do a history series. It was an idea I had a couple of years ago. It was in the middle of the summer, and I just wanted to do something different. I don't know where the idea came from, but the thought was, I do kind of know where it came from. I remember hearing something about some younger students actually complaining about the acupuncture education and complaining about, I think, cultural misappropriation or something like that. It's a popular thing. And I was thinking to myself, cultural misappropriation, well, first of all, I didn't even know about that when I went to acupuncture school because it wasn't a thing. And then I got to thinking about the people that I know that built schools or built companies. And none of the people that I know that made an impact on the profession did it because they thought they were going to make a ton of money. They did it because they were crazily, wildly passionate about it. I mean, good grief. Go and learn acupuncture when there's no licensure? What kind of crazy person does that? How are you going to make money doing that? That sounds like a good way to ruin your life to me. And yet you have these people like Rick Gold, you have John Meyerson, you have Kapchuk, you have Gamble, like you were just saying, you have Wei Dong Lu, right? There's that character.
Well, that's actually
But here's the thing. The people who had these strong personalities, they saw something in the medicine and they were unstoppable. Of course, they're going to be hard to get along with sometimes because They have some kind of vision. How else do you get involved with something like this if you don't have some vision or have your heart in it in some very powerful way?
Absolutely. And the one of the story is you probably heard the Steve Birch, right? Steve, that he's one of the Dr. So's student. And he's the one that created the Japanese acupuncture department. Now, I think he's in Europe now. Maybe you should interview him. He's interesting. I think he's British. And when I came, he was still here and teaching. And one of the story is that he was treated by Dr. So, of course. And the doctor is famous for his very strong, brutal needling techniques.
I did not know that.
Oh, he's he's very, very strong. Touchy sensation. He said, the pain afraid of me. That's why I'm doing
The pain's afraid of me.
And the one thing I heard is that Steve was treated by doctor, and it was very, very painful. But he couldn't say anything, and because he's, the teachers treating on you. But he said it gotta be somewhere in the world that we can do acupuncture without the pain.
Mm-hmm.
That's how he discovered, Japanese acupuncture.
That's what took him to Japanese. I mean, this, I love this. This is so, I think this is how progress happens. You have an experience and you go, you know what? There's got to be another way to do this.
Yeah, yes. The John Mason, he's a character. And I joined the board, acupuncture board of the Massachusetts, and as a member, and he was chair. I saw how he played with political games with all the different parties. Yeah. And then one day he came to he said, I want you to become the chair of the board. I'm leaving. So now I'm on that position for 20 years. So I'm still as the chair of the Committee on Acupuncture in the Massachusetts. That's another whole story when you're dealing with all these disciplinary actions.
Oh my goodness. Yeah. Well, we would need another podcast to do that. And maybe we'll just have to do that at some point.
Yes. I think
there's
a lot to say,
Yes.
Yeah. But you can see this, you need all kind of people to get together.
You do. I think that's true. You need all kinds of people because it takes different personalities, it takes different skill sets, it takes different visions of what's possible. And then we have to figure out a way to make all that work without ripping each other's throats out.
Yeah, well, yeah, absolutely. So that because all these, imagine all these hippies, that get together in the room, in the water tongue, and start to, learn acupuncture and start their practice in 1970s. And when these anti-Vietnam wars going on there, and the people smoking pot, and this kind of people. Now look at today, acupuncture has widespread, although I wish we could more, but it's tremendous improvement. And we get it, academic and medical centers in many of them. There's a lot of societies, professional societies that, not just only acupuncture, but integrative medicine in bigger theme. But the acupuncture always play a very, very important role in these societies. There's so many of them. And so integrative medicine is actually, I think, Chinese medicine bring these ideas and the practice into mainstream. Even we talk about the dry needling, chiropractor practice the acupuncture, nurses practicing acupuncture. People are argue with that, says, they steal our places. But I think on the other side, you can see they actually expanding the impact of the acupuncture to the society.
I completely agree. And this may make me sound like a heretic. Lately, I've been asking myself the question, does acupuncture belong to me? Do I own it because of my education? Or do I belong to acupuncture? Is it incumbent upon me to do what I can to help as many people as I can with acupuncture? Maybe people that aren't acupuncturists learn a little something about it so that they can help relieve suffering somewhere.
Absolutely. I agree with you. So I think acupuncture is no longer part of a Chinese medicine. I think it belongs to the whole world.
Wow, that's a powerful statement.
Yeah, that's why I feel that way. And because when we just came to this country, I feel that I'm Chinese, I'm TCM doctors, I'm all thinking about it as the Chinese culture. But now, after being here for long enough, I feel there's an international flavor there, and the Chinese, especially acupuncture, is international now. It's no longer just a Chinese medicine per se. Look at this, oncology acupuncture, that's actually mostly developed in this country. And these other places, they have their own development, uniqueness, and some research, some of practice can be very complete different than what practice in China these days.
It's fascinating. How lucky we are.
Yes. Yeah.
Yes. Well, Wei Dong, thank you so much for our conversation today. I've had a wonderful time.
Thank you.
I look forward to sharing this with the Geological listeners. I can't wait.
Yes. By the way, at the NISA, people call me Lu instead of Wei Dong Lu. So
Okay.
My older students, they probably hear that's the Lu Wei Dong more familiar to their ears than the Wei Dong Lu.
Okay. Dr. Lu. Dr. Lu to all you old Nisers.
Or Nisas. Thank you very much for having me. And welcome to Boston.
Okay.
I'll show you around.
好的。
好的。
好，下次见。
下次再见。再见。拜拜。
Well, that wraps it up for our conversation today with Wei Dong Lu. Here in the West, we often have new patients say something like, I'm not sure about Chinese medicine because I don't know anything about it. To which I usually reply, well, of course you don't. How could you? It's not like you had an uncle who gave you herbs or a grandma who did acupuncture for you as a kid. Wei Dong's life was different. He grew up in a medical family. In high school, at the age of 16, he was told to learn a practical skill and handed needles instead of carpentry tools, practicing on classmates and watching as surgeons used acupuncture for anesthesia. I wonder what it must have felt like to be a teenager and already learning the power of an acupuncture needle. And then later, the very sharp contrast of Nebraska compared to Shanghai. A young man with unique medical skills washing dishes, that got my attention. I think in part because I had the reverse commute of going to Taiwan. Different paths, but similar dislocations. What really sticks with me is the surprising and circuitous routes that medicine travels. The pathways are often complicated and entangled with both trouble and opportunity. Maybe not so different from our present moment when you think about it. It leaves me thinking about our own individual work, how it changes shape, how it adapts to the times and circumstances that we find ourselves in. I wonder, what are the troubles of our times that are also potent opportunities? Well, here we are at the end of this episode. If you've listened up to this point, you're either a rabid fan of Geological or the forward button on your podcast player stopped working. If you are indeed a fan of the podcast, you can help us to bring new episodes to our community of practitioners by supporting us with a membership or a one-time contribution. Details, of course, are on the website. That's it for today, friends. Join us again next Tuesday for another thoughtful episode of Geological.